Hey everyone, it is Everything in Poderation, because sometimes the internet can be too much to the point of murder.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. On this very special episode, I'll be asking the real questions like, why do people find Ted Bundy hot? Because they do. Mm-hmm. I'm Daly, and I don't find Ted Bundy to be attractive whatsoever.
I'm Colin, and I also find I was trying to think of fucking Mike Myers, Cat in the Hat. Very serial murder.
I get it.
Yeah, serial killer. Murder.
And I'm Robert, and you know what I do find hot? Lucky Charms. Let's talk about cereal.
Oh, yeah, that kind of... Oh, is that the research you guys did when I said that we were going to talk about serial killer fandoms today?
Robert,
isn't that what we're talking about? Sorry, I only get like the first half of all my text messages. I gotta call T-Mobile about that, but aren't we talking about cereal?
I don't know. Did Lucky murder several people in quick succession? I'd believe it. I'd believe
Robert,
it if
I
you
would
told
expect
me.
this kind of behavior out of me. Okay, this taking the low hanging fruit of making the cereal joke out of the fucking. Listen, come on.
What do you think this episode is about, Colin?
I'm just saying that I was above taking the low road of the cereal joke here. Okay, I was gonna make this joke about Raisin Bran and how 2 scoops isn't a real metric measurement of raisins. You can't measure raisins with 2 scoops. Like,
how much is a scoop? That's the scoop of this episode. How much is a scoop?
I take offense to it being a low-hanging fruit, because I'm pretty sure the Lucky Charms leprechaun, I don't remember his name, let's call him Lenny.
Lucky.
Is it?
It's his charms.
I guess so.
It's in the name.
It's Lucky Charms, not Lucky's Charms. Anyway, I'm pretty sure he is a serial killer, because think about how many motherfuckers must be after his Lucky Charms. Like, at some point you have to turn to murder, and he's been the mascot for years.
I don't know, man. I think the Trix Bunny is way more sus.
I was literally just thinking that he did
kids.
disguises. He was known to be somewhat off balance mentally. It's all there in the profile, guys. So maybe you have amateurly profiled, criminally profiled various serial mascots, because true crime is very popular.
It is.
At the moment. I mean, there's a ton of podcasts about it. There's a ton of YouTube channels about it. I feel like every other day I'm hearing about some kind of new documentary on Netflix about some atrocity that is more atrocious than you ever thought before, because we have new evidence, because these guys that are sitting in prison just keep being like, oh yeah, I killed someone else too, by the way. There was another murder on top of that, which is always great. But I want to talk about a splinter of the true crime community, because it's fine to find serial killers and psychopaths and unsolved crimes interesting, because they're kind of like their own little mysteries, and you're trying to wrap your head around how someone could do something so atrocious. But in this splinter, in this ugly splinter of the true crime community, there are those who find serial killers, school shooters, cannibals not only interesting, but kind of sexy.
And in like actually want to marry them kind of way. Yeah.
In like I'm gonna send money and letters to Ted Bundy in prison because I saw him on the news, and wow, he was pretty attractive, and also I am not immediately sickened by the idea of him murdering at least 36 women.
I mean, it's got to be like 37 before it really gets sickening.
Yeah, yeah. It is estimated by authorities that Bundy probably had upwards of 100 victims, and that he just didn't fess up to some of them before he was executed.
Just some of them.
The fucked up thing is, like, I have moved from one place with a well-known serial killer to another place with a well-known serial killer, because grew up in Ohio, born and raised, and I actually knew someone. I was about 2 or 3 degrees away from Jeffrey Dahmer at one point.
Yikes.
From a social standpoint. Yeah. and there, how that came about was my roommate when I was in my freshman year of college. He went to Wadsworth High School, which is a suburb, maybe like 30 minutes southwest of Cleveland. And one of the substitute teacher there, his name was Mr. D.
Oh no!
Interesting.
That was, in fact, Jeffrey Dahmer's father.
Oh no!
That he had as a substitute.
Ooh.
And no, he doesn't talk about it. That's why he goes by Mr. D.
Yeah,
I would too.
I've heard things about his poor father was really like obviously traumatized by like my son did this. My son ate people. What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then here in Washington, it's kind of like the home of serial killers in a weird way.
Yeah. What's up with that, y'all?
I don't know.
Is it just the lack of sun? Because there's genuine theories that it's like a lack of vitamin D that makes one murder, I guess.
Murder.
Yeah, but then you'd think it'd be a lot more people, like legions of people, right? Because it's not like those few people got less vitamin D because of the state of Washington.
I'm sure it has to do with like how their other brain chemistry maybe mixes with the lack of vitamin D. Maybe there's something there, like the way the synapses fire in their brain. I don't know. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
I mean, there's a whole study. How do serial killers work internally? Why are they the way that they are? And like I said, it's okay to be interested in that because it is fascinating, criminal psychology. But then there's those people that take it just a little farther and are like, you're very interesting and also sexy. And that's why I asked you guys to look at a picture of Bundy, not Zac Efron Bundy, but just Bundy, because I have the genuine question, is he attractive? Because I don't think he's attractive, and that's why I'm baffled that so many people were like, but look how handsome he is. How can he be a serial killer?
So I will say the Zac Efron to Ted Bundy comparison, especially Mr. Efron in the Ted Bundy movie, it's very that meme from The Office of corporate needs you to tell the difference between these two pictures, and it's like they're the same picture. It's just the forehead, right? And I think is that what's getting you with the real Ted Bundy pictures? Like he's like got a 5 head.
He's got a 5 head and a unibrow, and then his wicked eyes, his shockingly evil, shockingly wicked eyes.
Well, I'm sure your perspective, I mean, all of our perspective has probably been biased, right? Through the lens of like, you're looking for the face of a murderer when you see, you go in knowing that it's Ted Bundy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you're kind of just picking out the details. Like, yeah, maybe I would say like he has like beady eyes or whatever, but otherwise it looks like a picture, like an old picture of a person that doesn't really, has some just, I don't know. He has like a decent jawline or something, but like, yeah, he's a dude.
Yeah, because if you take a more innocent negative trait, like let's say you learned about how this guy takes 1 shower a week, right? But then you see a picture of him that's like, he seems nice, he looks fine, right? But then your brain would be like, but this guy only takes 1 shower a week.
He's stinky.
Yeah, so you would be looking for the things that don't make that guy as handsome or as cute or whatever, right?
Actually, I will say the picture in our doc of him kind of looks like Bob Saget to me.
Yeah,
I can see the resemblance, actually, yes.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Bob Saget.
Bob Saget could have played him instead of Efron.
Yeah, but I mean, I think to be realistic, right, isn't part of the Ted Bundy lore, the deep Bundy lore, is that women did find him attractive when he was doing his thing, which is how he was able to get close enough to, kill these women, right?
Yeah,
yes.
He would, part of his MO was posing as being like, oh, I have like my arms in a sling. Can you help me carry this to my car? Or like, I'm trying to pick up a surfboard. Can you help me carry this? And then they were never heard from again.
Yeah. So I think it makes sense, right? That like all of these people are coming out of the woodwork and being like, but he hot, like low-key, he kind of is hot. Because it's like, that's the reason a lot of his victims were victims, is that they thought the same thing until it was too late for them to change their mind, unfortunately, right?
Right.
So I don't really see it as like a hot take. I just see it as like, that's a fair take to have, but
that
you
he's
should also
attractive.
know, but you should also know the other context, that Ted Bundy showers once a week kind of context.
Yeah. We'll just say that as fact now. I'm okay with that kind of a misinformation about Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy, who showers once a week.
I mean, nowadays he probably showers less than once a week.
He sure does. I don't know, how often does it rain where he's buried. That would be the question. But there were, in the day, like as it was coming out, like the details of all his murders, there were women that would show up dressed as his victims and with like handmade Bundy like fangirl shirts and like swoon in the courtroom, and he would like wink at them and stuff. And they had the context of they were sitting in the midst of the context of who he was and what he's done. And I'm going to introduce y'all to a new vocabulary word.
Oh boy.
For the people that would find someone like Bundy very quote unquote interesting. So our word of the day is hybristophilia, which is a condition in which sexual arousal arises from being with a partner who is committing or is known to have committed a violent or aggressive illegal act such as rape, murder, or armed robbery.
So it's like one step beyond, I like a bad boy. It's one step beyond that.
It is the most, maybe the most extreme version of like, ooh, bad boy. Like we love a bad boy. Which I don't think is like an inherently bad trope, when it's like, it's cheesy, it's overused in certain media, like, fallen for the bad boy. I've seen those, the pulpy romance covers, like the taming the bad boy, meeting the bad boy, falling for the bad boy. But the bad boy is usually like, he gets into bar fights and he secretly has a soft side, rather than he secretly has murdered 36 women.
Right, that's what I was going to say, is most of those I love a bad boy kind of things, whenever someone says that, usually the assumption is maybe that bad boy is like probably a bit of a dick, has definitely thrown a punch or two in his life, but like does have that secret like soft spot, like they help out children, but they don't want people to know because they don't want to ruin their bad boy image, their badass image, right? And I feel like that's what people latch onto the most when they think they like a bad boy, is that soft spot that they want to pull
either that
out.
or I can change him.
Or I can change him.
I can fix you.
And maybe there is a little bit of that I can change him with a serial killer like Ted Bundy, right? Like let's assume he's still alive and all of that stuff. Or like maybe there is a little bit of I can change him, but it's like, think about how much you would have to change to convince a man that murdering more than 100 people is suddenly bad.
I'm pretty sure if you're murdering just for the sake of murdering on that scale, there's something inherently wrong in your brain chemistry. Like that's not something you can just fix by having a conversation. That's like, you need medications, dude, and like deep amounts of therapy.
More than just one woman can give, probably.
Yeah. And I'd also I'm personally not the biggest fan of the whole like I can fix him narrative when it comes to bad boys, because there's like that weird, like, why not just find the person that is already fixed, so you don't need to change another human being to fit your needs. Kind of
you don't have to. You don't have to shop secondhand, honey. You can get the new thing.
I mean, but it's more that when you're trying to find someone to be in a relationship with, you shouldn't be like trying to fix them to make them up to your specs, right?
Well, otherwise it's boring, Robert.
Well, I guess, but I mean, you should be finding someone you meet in the middle, right? And I'm not saying if you want to date Ted Bundy, you need to kill 50 people to meet him in the middle or anything like that, right?
That's the quota.
I'm just saying,
I see what I need to do here.
Right. I'm just saying, maybe he's not one of those people you need to fix. Maybe he is unfixable.
I think that's fair to say that there's unfixable people. Hot take of the podcast.
Yeah. Well, actually, now that I think about it, I wonder if the women in the Ted Bundy situation were trying to turn it more into a Charles Manson type deal. Because you know how he had like several people under him. Because did Charles Manson actually commit murder himself? Because didn't he just try to get other people to do it for him? I don't know that he ever actually did it himself by his own hand.
That's the technicality. He never did it himself, but he convinced his followers to do it because and the part of the whole Charles Manson thing that always gets cut out, which I find very interesting, is that he was like, there's gonna be a great white genocide and we need to we're gonna have our own little compound, and one of the ways that we can prepare is by murdering people who have wronged me, and y'all can do that for me as a favor. Thanks very much.
You know, I'm really glad that the whole fear of white genocide thing hasn't caught on much beyond him. Thank God that there aren't white supremacists out there who are so scared of being belittled.
No, that whole movement, the Great Replacement, that died in the age of Aquarius, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I wonder, though, like, if that was, for the women in this situation anyway, was that their goal to, like, turn it into, like, hey, we'll do anything you want sort of situation. I don't know.
Yeah, I have some. So there's a pretty vast history, actually, of women marrying serial killers that are incarcerated for life or awaiting execution on death row. And people are always like, well, why would you do that? Why would you marry a known serial killer? And
the taxes.
Tax benefits. that's the only reason one would marry a serial killer. Is I'm sure there's many tax benefits for that, but various psychologists have indicated that women who marry serial killers have likely been in abusive relationships themselves, and that marrying a serial killer, if you're okay with the whole serial killer part, is, you know, quote unquote beneficial for them, as far as like they know where their man is at all times, so they're not cheating on them. They know that they literally physically cannot hurt them because they're in jail and they probably don't have physical visits, and that they are the only as their wife, they're the only emotional outlet for that person. And so they're going to be, you know, like love bombed and very important to that person, which it feels nice to be important to someone. And maybe for some people, it doesn't matter that someone happens to have killed a bunch of people or done various heinous acts.
Yeah. That's wild to think about. And I while we were talking too, Daily, I looked up, so Ted Bundy was most active with the whole murder thing between 1970, the whole murder thing, 1974 and 1978. So I think Charles Manson was active by the end of the 60s into the early 70s, if I recall right. And so my point with that is the whole Manson thing might have already been getting like coverage, like a ton of coverage on TV and the news and things like that. So then you have these girls that see these things happening and become fanatical just based on the coverage of it all. Kind of like a, what do you call it? Isn't it a trickle down effect or something like that? Yeah, so I'm guessing it kind of was spurned on by the already happening Manson case.
Like people wanted clout.
Yeah, they want the publicity.
Well, not even really publicity, but what I'm saying is the fact that the Manson situation was getting coverage was then causing fans in the peripheral.
So they're like,
this is where the first, what was the word? Hybristophiliacs came into their realization.
Exactly, because they were, you know, the people, this whole Manson thing was getting widespread coverage. So some people took that as like, hey, like now that I know about this, maybe I want to make, you know, Bundy into my Manson, essentially.
Into my mans.
Into my man. Thank you, Robert. It was there. Bundy is my mans. Yeah. So that's all. Bundy's way in the past, Manson's way in the past, right? Here's where the internet comes in and does its thing.
I forgot we do an internet show, and
we do an internet show, guys. So even though Bundy's dead, his legend lives on, and there are tons of people on Tumblr that like to make like little edits of him with like hearts on it, and posts that memorialize the day that he was executed, and fun stuff like that, and fan art. There's a lot of serial killer fan art out there.
But why? I know Rule 34. If it exists, there's internet of it, and then that other rule where if it exists and there's no porn of it yet, it will happen. It will happen, and I know this falls under that rule. And you know what? I've always been a big proponent of no kink shaming, and I don't quite want to get as far as kink shaming this one, but definitely check out therapists. They're pretty cool.
I think it's fair to say no kink shaming with an asterisk, and the asterisk being followed by if your kink doesn't involve people getting hurt or murdered.
Well, so that is what I always have that implicit asterisk here, right? The thing is, unless I'm wrong, I don't think being horny for Ted Bundy you won't kill it. Well, you might kill people over that. Okay, yeah, never mind. I don't like this.
We're reevaluating actively as we record. Yeah, I mean, that's we can't accurately say that being... No, actually, we can't. Never mind. Wait, I just remembered. Okay.
No.
Okay. So before we get into some of the more, I like the fandom, the serial killer fandom, there's, specific people have specific killers that they're into. But there is a very big group of the within the serial killer fandom, a sub fandom that is dedicated to the Columbine shooters, and finding them attractive, or being like I could have helped, I could have changed them, or like I wish I went to school with them and things would have been different, or because there's a healthy interest in it, as far as like this was what kind of kicked off that school shootings happen in America, and we're so used to them being so frequent now. But at the time of the Columbine shooting, that was like a world-changing event. And people didn't see it coming, even though they probably should have. But, how do you prepare for that when there's no precedents, et cetera, et cetera? But then you have folks like Randy Stair, aka Andrew Blaze. He was a YouTuber.
They both sound like fake names, by the way.
They're one of the first one's real. Randy Stair is his real name, but online he went by Andrew Blaze. And he liked two things. He liked Danny Phantom, like Danny Phantom. He was just 14 when his parents built that guy.
Okay, not the serial killer.
And the Columbine shooters.
Huh.
Yikes.
Huh, that's an interesting intersection of things you're a big fan of.
Yeah. And so he was really into Ember from Danny Phantom. She was like Colin remembers. Colin, that's the face of recognition.
Is that like the goth hacker girl?
My name.
She was musical. She was in a band, a ghost band.
For context, Robert, this episode of Danny Phantom in general already had Sam, who was already like a sexual awakening for the goth girlfriend thing movement.
Oh yeah,
back in the late aughts. And then
Daly knows very well.
Yeah. And then
I might have like realized some things about myself when I was doing a lot of fan art of Sam, and I was like, they were like, why do you only draw the girl? And I was like, I don't know, I like her. I think she's cool.
I mean, Ember was just even more of that. It was more like, goth rock emo front woman type design deal. Yeah. So that was there was definitely in style at the time. Definitely
Yeah.
trending.
He
still
really
is.
he really
Yes.
liked Ember, and he really liked the Columbine shooters, and he had a YouTube channel called I want to say like Pilgrim Productions or something like that. So there's a lot of video of this guy, including a video that he recorded like I want to say 6 hours before he killed 3 of his coworkers and then himself at a supermarket in Eaton Township, Pennsylvania. Woof. Yeah. So I was going to say we can't connect like being into serial killers with becoming a serial killer yourself, but we actually can.
Yeah,
in this case.
I guess there's a reason, right? That copycat killer is like a thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think this is a good kink, guys.
I'm gonna say it's not a good kink.
Look,
Robert is officially changed his stance.
Look, why can't your kink be like furries? You know, why can't that be your thing? Because at the very least, you could say when former President Donald Trump launches a social media platform, we brigaded it with furry porn, furry Sonic porn. At least you could be proud of that, which did happen, by the way.
Facts.
Yeah, July 4th, Freedom Day, is the day that they brigaded Trump's fucking social media with Sonic porn.
The best kind of exercise of freedom, if you ask me.
Yeah, so why can't that be your kink instead of Ted Bundy?
It's not all Ted Bundy though. We also have Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, that killed and assaulted a bunch of people in San Francisco. And the thing is with him, you see inside of the serial killer fandom more stuff about Richard Ramirez because he looks like an off-brand Ezra Miller.
Really?
So, yeah, that guy. And they're like, well, he's hot, and he was like super edgy because he was like, I'm doing this for Satan and fun stuff like that. And that's how a editor of a teen magazine married him in prison after he had already been caught. But it was only after it came to light that he was responsible for the brutal rape and murder of a 9-year-old girl that she was like, oh, maybe this isn't a good idea.
Maybe it isn't.
And then divorced him. But then he got married again before he died in prison of lymphoma, I believe.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking forward to the Netflix docuseries Night Stalker, starring Ezra Miller, who portrays Mr. Ramirez.
I would totally see that being a thing. He was not the latest, but like the season of American Horror Story. I think it was called like 1984 or something like that. It was the one that was like in the 80s or the 90s, I forget. But it had Richard Ramirez as a character.
Oh, wow.
Like an active character in the show.
The actual, not just some schmuck named Richard Ramirez, but the actual one that we're talking about.
Yeah, the Night Stalker. They got a guy that looked like him. They did his whole MO of breaking into people's houses, raping women, killing everyone else, etc. Great stuff. And then being like, Satan made me do it. Because that was his shtick.
It's very reminiscent of like the story of Harley Quinn in the DC universe, right? Where she like becomes obsessed with the Joker to the point where like she has this really flawed and deeply messed up relationship with a dude who's essentially a murderer.
Yeah.
There's like a romanticization there of like,
because she was a psychologist, right?
Violent and psychotic, but he's not violent and psychotic to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm special. That I get a lot of main character syndrome out of this when I was looking into the kind of people that post like rip Eric, heart, Eric being one of the 2 Columbine shooters.
Right. So my question, at least specifically with the Night Stalker and with Mr. Bundy, right, is that very clearly I think we've established that Zac Efron looks like Ted Bundy and Ezra Miller looks like Night Stalker, right? Mm-hmm. So if most of your fandomness is tied to, oh, he's so hot, why not just like Ezra Miller instead of, because like you're realistically you're not going to marry either of them, so why not be a fan of the one who, I don't know, didn't rape and kill a 9-year-old girl? That, as far as we know, I guess, not to throw shade at Ezra Miller, but you know what I mean. Like,
okay.
I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of just, like I said, it's the whole Harley Quinn thing where you become like, oh wow, this dude's like fucked up, but I'm also very interested in understanding how and why, and also it's almost arousing to me that he commits such a heinous act.
Scarousing.
I'm scaroused. I'm
so
scared but aroused.
Right,
I'm scaroused.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nothing turns you on more than feeling like you're gonna get murdered at any given fucking time when you're around someone.
Yeah. Here's my my big brain theory. So I'm a girl. I was raised on American media, and I can see like the ascent, the pathway that one might take from mainstream media to getting onto Tumblr and blogging about serial killers and how much you like them. As far as back in the Twilight craze, one of the reasons why like Edward Cullen vampire was hot is because he was like, I could murder you at any one moment, but I'm resisting it constantly.
He was a bad boy.
And it was like, oh, he's a bad boy. And it's like, oh, he has to like actually resist trying to murder me at all times. And he's doing that for me because I'm special. I'm so special.
I'm very choked up about this.
I'm very choked up about this. And then later we had season 1 of American Horror Story, which had Tate, who became like, I can't tell you. I was on Tumblr during the time of American Horror Story rising to 1. Everyone loved Tate.
Yes,
I thought he was so cool. I saw all the gifs of him walking with his skull makeup on through the hallways of the school that he inevitably shot up. And people were still into him because he was supposed to be the romantic lead even after we found out that he had shot up his school and that he was a ghost. Spoilers for American Horror Story season 1. So I don't want to say like girls of my age have been like that's a strong word, indoctrinated, but at least somewhat normalized to like very bad boys. Very bad.
Right. So you're saying on this let's call it American Girl TV show to Tumblr pipeline. Is that a fair thing to call this?
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
At some point, there's a branching path where you either become into selling human bones, become into astral projection, or become into Jeffrey Dahmer.
Those are the only 3 paths. You're one of the. If you're on Tumblr, you're either going to. One of those fates is eventual. If you haven't started selling bones, you're gonna start being like, man, Richard Ramirez is hottie.
Yeah, or it comes full circle and you affect Supernatural, the TV show.
God damn it.
God damn.
Future episode one day, guys. Let me know if you want to hear about how fucking insane Supernatural, because that's another whole Tumblr rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm. Tumblr is a really wild place, and I can't help but think either that there is sort of a correlation between like Tumblr fandoms, to a degree, murder being romanticized in film and TV, and also the general uptick of school shootings that we've seen in the past, especially the last 5 years, but in the last 10 years, really. It's kind of like really fucked up to think about, but like not only that, but like so it happens so often, and then it just causes this cascade effect of, you would have to think that the more that school shootings happen and the more that they're covered in the news media, and then the more that they're covered and the more content there is about them in fictional content, like it's just a giant cascade effect. So it just more begets more violence,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's been a problem for years now with media, right? Like, with how news media covers this stuff, because especially with the Columbine shooter being like the flashpoint for it, it wasn't about the victims of it. It was about the Columbine shooters. It was about how GTA caused them to do this. It was about, their troubled youth and what forced them to think that they had no other option but to do this. It wasn't about the victims who lost their lives and their families who would have to deal with those, ruptures in their lives for years to come. Same with Ted Bundy. It's not about his victims. It's about the legend of Bundy, right? Legend of Dahmer, the legend of the Green River Killer, right? Like it turns these people into, I mean, not heroes. That's not the right word, but they're like celebrities. They're people who are notorious. They got clout and they have name. I think recently news media has been getting a little bit better in kind of shifting the narrative to actually focus on the people who are really hurt by it instead of, weaving a new tapestry for a new serial killer or something. But I think that plays a big role in it.
Yeah, which is why I am definitely becoming more and more of a believer of the whole like rhetoric of, okay, well, if some big tragic event like this happens, a lot of the time these people want their name and their face to get out there and they want to be known as the person that committed this heinous act. So to counter that, a lot of people have been like, yeah, no, listen, don't put their fucking name out there. Don't put their picture out there. Like, we don't want to know who they are or, attach a face to what they did.
The Parkland, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. That was all Parkland, Florida, but the school was named Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. That kid, I saw the video of him literally being like, "Hey guys, I'm the next big school shooter. You're going to be seeing my name everywhere." Like literally just like vlogging a couple days before, just talking about more in terms of like the clout that he's going to get than like the morality of the act that he's doing in order to get the clout.
Yeah. And I actually did have one or two rubs with this sort of thing in school. Not a school shooter per se, but there was like when I was in elementary school, I think when I was in like 4th or 5th grade, there was like somebody put a bomb threat on the internet to like my school.
Woof.
Yeah. It like just threw a bomb threat out there and the school's closed down for the whole day because of it. They're like, yeah, no, nobody's going to school if there's a bomb threat out there. And my mom was like, listen, even if the schools were still open, I'm not letting you go to school if there's a bomb threat. And then we actually did go into lockdown when I was in high school because there was like some suspicious person on the property was like wandering the grounds and allegedly the person had a gun and they were like on our athletic field right next to the school. But even then that was post, I think it was like 2013, 2014. That was post Sandy Hook. So everyone was like, oh shit, like, is this it? Cause like we would actually talk about in class, like, yo, if this goes down and you're in my classroom, our teacher was just like, yeah, just take this fucking desk and chuck it through the window. Like, just take it and just chuck it out the window. We're getting out of here.
Yeah.
Like, we're not staying in the damn school with a shooter in the hallway. We're getting out of here.
I mean, I think it says a lot that like our parents' generation and the parents before generations, like for them, their big fire drill, aside from real fire drills, was what if the school gets nuked drill, right?
Yeah, and that was like in the 50s with the nuclear scare
duck
and stuff.
And cover.
Right.
Duck
and,
and cover.
Hide under the table, et cetera, et cetera. And that was treated as like the biggest fucking deal because, Red Scare, the USSR is they're our biggest threat and they're going to destroy us. America hasn't been nuked yet, right? Like clearly, I mean, it's good to be...
Knock on wood real quick here.
Yeah, knock on wood. I mean, like clearly that was a problem that was worth having the precaution for, but we were definitely maybe overcautious about it. Nowadays, there's still like, I think there's a lot of caution around school shooters, right? But where's the solution for it? Because believe it or not, a school shooting's already happened. In fact, many fucking times it has happened, right? And yet, where's any real semblance of solution coming from really anywhere?
Yeah, I mean,
arm
I don't know
the
if
teachers.
More guns.
Just everyone with a shotgun. They use it to point to the math equations on the board. If you just have it at all times.
Yeah.
Give kids gats.
Yes, everyone. What if everyone's armed at all times?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if you guys were the one. I want to take this conversation in a gun control direction, but like the conversation of procedure in terms of what you do when an active shooter is in your school. I mean, it's extremely dystopic to me that now we have to have the conversation of putting bulletproof padding in your kid's backpack and shit like that. I mean, that's terrifying. But not only that, like the whole conversation of like, hey, yeah, no, our solution is to lock the door and hide under your desk. Like, are you kidding? You're joking. That's your solution.
That's it. If they get in, throw stuff.
Yeah, instead of like, I don't know, mental health reform or gun control reform. I don't know. Who's to say?
Yeah, and even after all that, it keeps happening. Like, dude, you need to have like an emergency exit in every classroom or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to like have an exit plan. There's no way that staying on the grounds the same place as a shooter is a great idea. Like, I am going to be the first person to throw a chair through a window and I'm jumping out, you know, or like if you're on another floor, like a couple stories up, like there needs to be exit ramps or fire ladders or something, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty frightening that's, and I'm sure there's a unforetold psychological burden of like going to public school and actively having to wonder, like, is it going to happen?
Yeah.
And it maybe not even if, it's just when at this point. I'm sure for some people worry about that.
Yeah. There was a comedian who actually, I can't remember who made the joke, but I'll never forget the joke itself. And it was like, you know, when I would go to school, I would always take the weird kid a Milky Way. I would give the weird kid a Milky Way.
How dare you bring up Dane Cook on this sacred podcast? It was Dane Cook.
Oh, God. He's like, yeah, I'm always going to give the weird kid a Milky Way, a Baby Ruth, whatever, a Snickers. And be like, okay, man, when shit hits the fan, you'll remember me, right? We just decide to open fire on everybody else. You'd be like, nah, we're cool. And turn the other
But that
way.
is like, I guess the attitude, like there are literally, like, do you guys remember when I introduced you to the concept of imagines? How on Tumblr and various fan fiction sites you'll write, like, imagine if you were the new girl at Hogwarts and Draco said, I'll help you with your homework. There are imagines of like, imagine it's the day before the Columbine shooting and you sit next to Eric in lunch and maybe you could do something.
Yeesh.
Who knows? But I guarantee you, like, the people that are posting those are not the ones that are actively like seeking out the people that are the most like maybe like mentally vulnerable in their school and being like, hey, we can be friends. They want the after the fact of someone that already has the clout quotes of having murdered people.
Right.
Yeah.
And something I do want to try and figure out, because like Daly established early in this episode, right, there's that the more, let's say, platonic interest in serial killers, right? Because they're interesting. You want to figure out the darkness and the macabre part of the human psyche, etc. It's like you can't turn away from a car crash.
I'm platonically interested in serial killers, and then people are like, wait, was there a different kind of interest in serial killers?
Yeah. But then what if I'm horny about it? I mean, because that's obviously the next step, right? Especially with all these Tumblr people, right? So I want to.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, it's you're probably, if you're starting with, you're opening with like, yeah, I'm just like platonically interested. It's like, dude, you're implying that you're like.
I'm romantically interested in serial burglars, but I'm platonically interested in serial killers. See, there's a difference.
I just like needed a word.
I'm totally not racist, but
yeah. Well, but so there's some, at some point there's a turn, right? Or for some of these people it becomes more romantic, whether you want to marry them and whatever, right? And this isn't exclusive to Tumblr. This has been happening, you know, even way back when, right? Before the internet was really like a thing that a lot of people used. So I want to try and figure out at what point that turns. And for that, I want to ask you two a question. Who's your favorite Naruto character?
Fuck you. Fuck you. You knew this.
Yeah.
He knows the answer.
Yeah, this was a gotcha from the start.
Gotcha.
If you haven't listened to our show previously, they both like Itachi. And do you one of you two want to tell me what's so great about Itachi?
Okay, listen, motherfucker. Itachi didn't do it because he's like, yeah, I just like the thrill of the fucking kill.
Mhm.
Okay, he's like, I like making people suffer and watching them, look up at me as I stab them in the chest. Like, it's not like some like crazy fucking just weird psycho shit. It's more like, hey, I was given an ultimatum. My entire clan's going to be wiped out, or I can save my brother.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be honest. I'll be totally honest, because you got me fair and square. Because I liked Naruto. I loved Itachi before any of his like true backstory, his true motivations came out, and I because he was a bad boy, and he was a dark, mysterious character, and I was a emo child, and I was like, yeah, he's my fave.
See,
yeah, he did a genocide. So what? But. Fictional character,
yes.
Also,
fictional character. But yes, I absolutely was like, ooh, bad boy did a genocide. Mysterious.
So, I will say I differ from Daly in that situation, because like I wasn't sure about Itachi until we got the episode of where we find out like what he did.
And so you liked him because he's a serial killer.
God damn it, Robert.
So what you're saying is
no. Yes. I like him because he's a serial killer. No, because he's an anti-hero. He essentially becomes an anti-hero.
And, I guess there is a slight difference between like a serial killer and someone who does genocide, because genocide implies it's like a short time with a lot of people. Serial killer implies like it's, a series of murderous episodes, right? But
there, I'm exonerated from being one of these Tumblr girls. It was a genocide. It wasn't a serial killing.
Yeah, that makes it better.
I like Sasuke before I liked Itachi the best, I think, or Kakashi. But like, I like Sasuke a lot more than Itachi, so not great either.
Right, but I mean, I go back to, because I coined that phrase on the show earlier, that TV show to Tumblr pipeline. And yes. I wonder if this is like a step in that, because if it's not Itachi, I'm sure there are other popular TV shows, anime, etc., where like people congregated around a character who definitely did a lot of killing, right? Probably not for good reason, or at least they're painted to be villains in some way, shape, or form. Which Itachi for a good while was a villain, right? Up until you find out the truth. And I wonder if that feeds into that same idea of, I'm sure at some point, like, yes, Ted Bundy did do a lot of killings, but I think if we dug hard enough, we would have found out that an evil, stronger person was going to murder everyone in his village unless he did this kind of, like.
That's not where I thought you were going to go with this. That Bundy is an Uchiha?
I mean, I'm not saying that it's exactly that, but I think when you get to the point where you idolize a character like that, or at least you really, really like them, it becomes a little bit easier, right, to empathize with these extreme bad boys,
Even though, like, you kind of gloss over the reality of their crimes in order to more focus on, like, what's going on in his head? Why you like this? Because I think that's what happened for I don't remember her name. It was like Doreen, I think, that was the first wife of Richard Ramirez. And it was like I think for sometimes people are convinced like, oh no, he's totally innocent, like he's been framed, and then, or like, oh, the crimes weren't as bad as they were. And then actually hearing the details of like the rape and murder of a 9-year-old girl, that might affect your view of a person.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, I don't know. All I learned here is Dila likes bad boys.
God damn it. That is not the lesson of this episode, guys.
Yeah, I mean,
that is not the takeaway.
I'm trying to, I really do wonder if, how many of these huge fans, how many of them truly believe there's that secret redeeming factor that I want to unearth, versus, yeah, they kill people and I'm okay with that. Like they believe there's no redemption, but they still really like Night Stalker. You know what I mean? Like I wonder how many people there are in both of those camps.
Yeah. I would put money on like the idea that some people like literally just do like make the serial killer blogs, make the edits in order to be like edgy and like I'm not like other girls and it's just part of my aesthetic, where in like their actual heart of hearts, like when confronted with like, oh, you want to like go visit a serial killer in jail, or like you want to start like corresponding with, like, you can, their, you know, addresses are public, like it wouldn't go that far. I think that some people that claim to be what is our word of the day, how do I say it again?
Hybristophiliacs.
I think some people that claim to be hybristophiliacs are just doing it for the aesthetic. And I usually don't like to accuse people of doing, you know, something that they identify with as just doing it for the aesthetic, doing it for the clout. But in this case, I find it hard to believe that there's a significant part of the population that are like actively like, oh yeah, I would absolutely date a serial killer, or I would absolutely marry one that's already been caught and I know the details of their crimes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be the classic case of like doing it for internet clout, right? And I'm sure most of these people are kids that are posting about this, or like teenagers that are just kind of finding their way around and are latching on to something, right? To, you know, have some sort of something to identify themselves with, or they're just someone who comes from like not the greatest home life and something to that effect. I
mean, but you do have to be 18 in most places to marry. I guess 16 with age of consent in some places.
The point that I was getting to, though, is I think the people that actually go through with it is a pretty small sliver of that population. Yeah,
like that. Some people will grow out of it.
Yeah,
like the same way that there's the TV to Tumblr pipeline. I think there's also the blogging about serial killers to later regretting it pipeline, and then there's that small branch off of people that are like, no, this is something I'm actually genuinely passionate about, and I love Richard Ramirez. Gross.
But also, like, some of those same people are probably the same people that were into Tumblr witchcraft. So
it all comes back to the bones, baby. They're stealing bones.
No, I think I'm convinced that there's enough weird people out there there are some who just like the witchcraft and some who just like the Bundy.
But there's,
I don't think they have to be.
You would be surprised if there was overlap, right? I mean, come on, like murder, witchcraft, like true crime.
But I wouldn't assume if someone said, yeah, I'm a Bundy head, I wouldn't assume they're like, oh, I bet you like bones too.
No, I'm not going that far. I'm just saying
if they're into Dahmer.
I'm just saying edgy.
That's different.
Edgy phase of teenage years is edgy. So nothing edgy is off the table. So I feel like you would find a lot of overlap with a lot of those different things.
Right.
Yeah. I guess that can be said, like, you know, the same way that I think we've had discussions before about like cringe culture, and oftentimes it's like making fun of teenagers that are going through like a weird phase, that we've all gone through the weird phase.
For sure.
But theirs is documented on the internet forevermore. So it's much more public. And maybe we should, I want to have some faith that some of these kids are going to grow out of this completely and then be like, wow, I was a fucking idiot drawing pictures of Dahmer and being like, ooh, woo, Jeffrey, my love.
Ooh, woo.
Yeah, because I feel like by the time you hit adulthood, then there's just that macabre but platonic interest in what these serial killers are, right? Because I feel like that's very common. I mean, there's so many serial killer podcasts out there, serial killer like blogs and TV shows that aren't about like, I want to date Jeffrey Dahmer, but are just like, you know, look at how fucked up Jeffrey Dahmer was, right? Like,
yeah, like hearing, because there's always like details of certain cases that are like just so wild. It's like, why didn't you fucking catch him? And it's like the whole thing with like one of Dahmer's victims, like got away and got to the police, and he was like, "Oh, we had a lover's spat. You should," even though he's, crying and bloodied, it's just our relationship. And the police were like, "All right, sir, go carry on." And then he killed and ate that kid, 14-year-old kid.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, that stuff is really fucked up, but I can understand the like fascination behind it, right? Because it's interesting. It's like fiction, but real life, right?
Yeah.
Truth is stranger
I
than
wish
fiction.
it was, you wish it was fiction. It was just fiction. But it is one of those situations where it's a train wreck. You can't look away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think, too, that, I mean, we're never going to have a time when we as a people, from like an entertainment perspective, were like not interested in the fringes of humanity. And create, I mean, exactly. Like, we like to watch the car wreck happen. It just, we can't look away. And so, I mean, we're never going to stop having like serial type shows, or like TV shows about murder or true crime, CSI, Law and Order, NCIS.
Maybe that's another pipeline, because I was really into like CSI and NCIS and Criminal Minds when I was younger. And now I listen to like true crime podcasts or watch documentaries.
The Dick Wolf to true crime pipeline.
Damn it, Dick Wolf.
Fucking Dick Wolf.
Dun dun.
I think he's responsible for like 80% of those shows, right?
Yeah, procedural cop shows are very easy to make. And they'll always have some kind of audience, because once you're used to one, you're used to them all.
Yeah. I mean, we're just really interested in watching stuff about crime. I mean, shit, True Detective is like season 1 is one of my favorite pieces of media ever. I mean, it's just extremely well done.
Yeah, because I think we as humans, right, I think inherently we have a lot of interest in what our limits are. And that applies to just all sorts of stuff. Like bodybuilders are interested in figuring out what their limit is for how much they can like lift so they can break it, right? Writers try to find the limits of their creativity and break it to become even more creative, etc., right? And then I think there's just that point where you turn that curiosity toward what are the limits of the dark shit we can come up with as human beings, right? Because I think it doesn't take you too far into puberty to think about like, so what if I did shoot someone? Well, then you would have committed murder, right? Like, you can think that. But then what if you think about it in more fucked up ways? Like, what if I tortured someone? What if I kidnapped someone and did right? And then, you don't need to think about that anymore, because you can just read a story about what Jeffrey Dahmer did. And there you go. Now you've pushed the limits of the dark shit you can think about, right?
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it too, I mean, not, this is going to get hashtag deep a little bit, but
do it.
But everyone, that's the thing about humanity, right? Is like, the idea of like us being the most sentient beings on this planet is that, but the thing is, we're also one step away from just being animals and being victim to our instincts. So like, it only takes one snap in the brain, one thought, like you're always one step away from, like, anyone is one step away from doing some just absolutely awful shit. Everyone's had fleeting thoughts of accidentally like turning into oncoming traffic. Everyone's had fleeting thoughts of like, what if this plane crashes? I'm sure pilots have thought
Call
like
of the void.
Like this, like I've thought about when I was in the plane. I was like, this pilot could just be like, fuck it, like I'm done. Like, just throw that fucking steering wheel like in the downward position, and we're all dead, guys. Like, that's it.
Did you recently read The Killing Joke by Alan Moore? That's exactly what that is. That Batman comic where Joker reveals his origin story, and his origin story is literally like, I just had one really bad fucking day.
It only takes one bad day. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation too, is that I think with the Joker, it wasn't like the new Joker movie. It was like the same kind of thing that we see with the teenage girls fawning over Dahmer and Bundy, except in this version, it was like teenage boys being like, yeah,
that clown.
Phoenix's character, he had Arthur had reasons and he was justified to do what he did.
Yeah, God, I mean, and that's just the crazy thing is like, I mean, obviously you can't control how someone interprets something. And so I think that just the fact that we even continue to have media that covers this subject matter, it's only, I mean, again, cascade effect. That's what it comes back to, is you're only going to keep seeing more of it happen.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it all goes back to the reason we keep seeing it happen is because it is interesting inherently.
Right. It's a cycle.
So do y'all think is there a solution? Like, that's a big question. That's a big ask. Is there a solution to making murder less appealing to certain people, or is this just something that's going to happen because media be like media? It's just so ubiquitous at this point, it's unstoppable.
I don't think there's anything that we can really. I mean, personally, I don't think there's much we can do about it, because it's nothing that we can really shy away from. It's just kind of a reality of the world that we live in, and you can try and censor it all you want, but like, that's just censorship first and foremost. So that's like infringing on freedom of speech. And secondly, it's also something that, like, this is the reality, and we shouldn't shield ourselves from it either. Like, it's just something that happens, as infrequent as it may be. Maybe there's better ways to portray it. Maybe there's better ways to go about it and say, like, hey, this is fucked up. Or maybe we should shy away from romanticizing it. But, like, at the same time, like, that's infringing on creative freedom too, when it comes to like fictional media or even like biographical type things.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the closest thing we have to a solution is I'm going to show my hashtag hard left agenda politics for a sec here. Better access to healthcare. In fact, free healthcare. That'd be nice. Less stigma against
super political here. Look out, guys. Healthcare. What?
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about it from this angle, but yeah, Robert's right.
Yeah, less stigma around mental health. Like, I mean, it's getting better, obviously, but there's still there's still a group of people who would say, like, oh, you have depression? Just fucking man up, dude. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's not depression. You're just going through a funk, right? Like, no, it's real.
Go on a run.
Right? Yeah. And I mean, going on a run does help, endorphins, but it's not like that. Just you go on one run and that's your long-term solution. You'll never have depression again. Just run once. Yeah. You ask someone, how come you're so happy? I ran once in July 1972.
1972. I had a great run. Yeah. It's been going great ever since.
It's a really good run. But
run away from Bundy, actually.
But I think all of that stuff would help, because I don't think we're ever going to eliminate people who genuinely have a mental snap and go off and do these terrible things, right? I don't think we're ever going to fully eliminate it, because the human brain is so complex that we don't even understand it fully. And there are just going to be some people who are unfortunately born with, sociopathic tendencies, right?
Yeah.
Or born
psychology is a very young
too.
field.
Yeah. But the more we can make people or let people feel like they have a choice whenever they're in a dark place, the better we'll be. And I think a big step into getting to that is, if they don't feel like going to the hospital would rack up thousands of dollars, if they don't feel like going to a therapist is losing or being defeated by something, right? Like, if they see it as a victory, even to like reach out and get that help, that's one person who is less likely to feel like they have no options except for to start murdering people. Because I'd be willing to bet that's maybe one of the big parts of what plays into these serial killers. But then again, there's just also that, like, wasn't Bundy the one who'd like rip wings off of flies or something? Like, I know one of those serial killers just like
Dahmer was one of the ones that made the thing. It's like, yeah, he killed like animals and tortured animals in his childhood, and that was like one of the first ones where it's like, oh, so serial killers, there's a pattern. They often are doing that to animals first.
Right. And I don't think we're ever going to eliminate that, because I think there's always going to be that 1 in a million chance someone is born just with no empathy and no concept of consequence, right? With that sort of thing.
Right. Not
and
only
that's
that,
unfortunate.
But also like raised in the wrong environment too.
Well, but that's what social work would help with, right?
Right.
Like, basically, if we lived in a more liberal utopia, I think we would have less people who would feel like they have no choice but to lash out against society.
Yeah, you're gonna have people swinging at you in the comments for all the wrong reasons.
Man.
Oh, I know. It costs a lot of money.
Dare
you
say that? Whoa. Especially because I think one of the things that's most interesting to me about studying like people that commit horrible atrocities is that there's a lot of the time where it's like, we saw this coming. We absolutely saw this coming. We didn't know what was going to happen. Something bad was going to happen. They were going to have some kind of break. But they were looking up concerning things. They were posting concerning things. They were talking to people about, like, you ever think about murdering people? You ever think about what it'd be like to watch the life bleed out of someone's eyes?
Jesus. I mean,
it'd be great to at that moment be like, I personally haven't, but if you want to talk to, I got this therapist I go to.
Yeah.
I think maybe don't have to worry about it. It's totally affordable. Just drop in. Maybe do that right now.
And like, I wouldn't judge you, and society wouldn't judge you. Go for it. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, even going beyond that into like preventative measures too. We've had cases where like, oh yeah, no, like the NSA or like the government as a whole has had like tabs on this person for a while now, and they still managed to pull some atrocity off, even though like
even on small scales where it's like the Parkland shooter, it's like he had just recently gotten kicked out of school after already having been suspended for a fight, and then he like posted like, I'm gonna get revenge and stuff like that, and then of course the vlogs, and it's like his adopted mother had just died, and like the first thing that he spent some inheritance money on was guns, and it's like there's an equation here, and it adds up to a school shooting.
I mean, and then too, I mean, like the talk about gun control, I mean, we need to start having some serious talks about that, and that's something this country has struggled with and will continue to struggle with, unfortunately. But I mean, I'm not personally, I'm not one of those people that's like, take all the guns away, but also like, we need to control them better if we are going to have guns, and we need to have stricter background checks and blah blah blah. So like, I don't know, I think it's just
my rights,
even as it
my
is,
Second Amendment rights, Colin.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I'm not, listen, like I said, I don't think taking your guns away is like what needs to happen. But like, I do believe that we need to be way stricter about who fucking gets a gun. You know, you just can't reliably keep guns out of every person's hands that feels like they want one to commit something horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The comments are going to be great on this one. I'm excited.
Oh, I know. I mean, I will say, I think it's really telling when the extreme liberal answer is take away everyone's guns. Most gun owners' response is, I'll fucking shoot you if you do. I think that's pretty kind of telling. Like, should you have a gun then? I don't know.
Yeah.
Gun murder.
Listen, I mean, actually, I mean, and that's like a vocal minority too. I mean, like a lot of people who are gun owners, they just like, I have a gun for self-defense and I have one for hunting, and that's all it gets used for.
Have one for the 30 to 50 wild feral hogs that show up in my backyard.
I'm just saying, not even that hunting rifle's safe. Ask Dick Cheney. I mean, you know.
Oh shit.
Just saying.
Or that one guy. We can't ask him.
Yeah, man. I don't know. The gun debate is a very complicated thing, and we could probably do a whole episode on that though.
Right, so let's go on a break and then come back for the next hour of gun debate, right?
Oh,
yeah. Okay, so now that we've talked about the serial killers and their followers, because man, they have followers. But
Like
the next
Tumblr.
episode will be entirely on Tumblr. Next episode will be entirely about gun control and how we're going to solve it in one episode.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us for this one. Let us know who your favorite serial killer is. Please don't have a favorite. I mean, you can be like, this case is really interesting. Sure, that's fine. True crime is very popular right now. But taking it to the point where you make happy birthday posts for Eric Harris.
What?
I'm gonna question you.
Like, you don't even know him.
What the hell?
No, but he would have been 34.
Okay.
Okay. All
I
right.
photoshopped a happy birthday hat onto him. Someone did that. Someone made a happy birthday post and photoshopped a happy birthday hat onto Columbine shooter Eric Harris.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
I'll leave you with that for this episode. Thanks for joining us. Super upbeat. Wasn't it wonderful? We had a great time. Thanks for listening. If you'd like some more very upbeat episodes, you can find us on all the podcasting services. Everything in Poderation. You can email us about your favorite upbeat episodes. everythinginpod@gmail.com, and tweet at us your favorite upbeat episodes at everythinginpod on Twitter. Thanks for joining us for this episode, and get ready for the gun debate. We're doing that, right? That's totally happening. No, it's not. We're gonna probably talk about anime next time. Okay.
Hey, anime is a kind of gun.